We've powered up our MBX-PRE. We've connected up the internet to it. We're ready to unlock it and program it. So we're entering in the IP address 192.168.201, and we have found that IP address through Fing. So this is the screen that will appear. It comes from the internal browser of the MBX-PRE. You'll see up at the top it says unlock, and that's highlighted in coral. And so if we press the unlock, it asks for our username and our password. So we'll enter in our username, which is the email address. And we put in our password. We'll hit apply. And now it is unlocked. The first thing we'll do is we'll give this device a name. You can see that, that the name that's there is MBX-PRE. The next 4 digits are actually the last 4 digits of its MAC address. So you would normally assign a name that would be appropriate for your client. So we can call this Russound Streamer. We could call it Peter's Streamer. There's a number of different, any name that you want to put in there. The name that you see here is actually the name that's going to appear on the person's app when they're selecting the music source to stream from. You'll see a tick mark, and the tick mark means that that information has been written to the MBX-PRE. We'll hit the next button, and now through first time setup, we're assigning either a wired connection or a wireless connection. Presently it's wired. We could choose to go wireless. So depending on whether or not we have a cable connected to the network that is in close proximity, we may just choose to go wireless. And then it's just a question of selecting the appropriate Wi-Fi network. So in this case, we'll leave it as wired. And you'll see that we've enabled DHCP, and we're applying it. So right now it says that the IP address settings are changing. Those have been applied. And if we click next and click next again, we can then determine where we are. The default is United States. We're going to use Canada, and then the region, we'll select our appropriate time zone. Center of the universe, Toronto. We'll click next, and you'll see that it says that there's a firmware update that needs to be done. And you'll probably find this with any unit that you buy. Normally what happens is that updates are done automatically through a push from Russound. We're in the process of doing the update, and you can see from the front of the unit that the operational light is green, and we should expect to see that change to a red and then a flashing red. The update procedure should take approximately 2 to 5 minutes, depending upon the extent of the upgrade. So right now it's in red. What's happening is that it's retrieving the firmware update file directly from Russound. When you see the red light flashing, it means that it's installing it. Word of caution, I would always recommend that you do these firmware updates before you go to the job site. Get them out of the way, get the system unlocked. It's not something that you have to do at your client's address. So now we're all set. The green light's back on. Firmware is updated. All right, so we've updated the firmware. We'll click next again, click next again. Software is up to date, so we're good. So the preliminary setup is done. And if we look at the current status of the system, it tells us the name that we've assigned to it, the firmware level. It gives us a serial number, which is important, which for future reference, you should make note of that serial number. And it tells us that we have a wired connection, and it tells us what our IP address is. Going into setup, this is a critical part of the setup. And the MBX-PRE has two modes. It can either be in zone mode or source mode. Source mode would be selected if I was connecting to a Russound MCA66 or MCA88 controller. You would assign the actual source number that the unit is going to be connected to. Our other option is setting up in zone mode. And in zone mode, you can connect the MBX-PRE to any audio component. So it could be an older style Russound controller, it could be an amplifier, anything. So zone mode, source mode, critical selection process. You can see that we've set this up as source number 2. It takes about 90 seconds to go through the change from zone mode to a particular source. Configuration password is disabled. It is defaulted as disable. AirPlay password is generally never used, and the reason that you would use it is if you were putting this into a commercial environment or an office environment, and you wanted to restrict people's access to playing music files from their mobile device. You can see that we've got our time zone set up properly. Our timeout is 10 minutes, meaning that if nothing happens with the system, if it is not used, then it will shut down in 10 minutes. Or you can leave it on all the time. Bluetooth is disabled. It does have Bluetooth capability. However, if you mount this MBX-PRE in a utility area, in a rack environment, then the access to Bluetooth would be virtually impossible. So in that case, you would probably disable Bluetooth. The front panel LEDs are enabled. That means that the lights that we were looking at previously are visible. And then the last item is statistics reporting, and that's enabled. That sends information to Russound about the streams that are activated, and also the names that are associated with the streamer itself. In no way does it send any information about person's ownership or addresses or anything like that. That looks after all of the setup that would be necessary. Now there's a couple of other areas that you would consider looking at. If we scroll down from administration and we go down to, let's go down to streaming services. We click on that, click on service selection. This shows us all of the services that are available in the order that they would appear on the app, or if you were using an XTS Plus touchscreen. So if there's any of the services that you would not be using, then you can actually disable them. So you would drag and drop it. So pick another one. Let's say Deezer. Disable that. Now I want to have TuneIn Radio up at the top as on my menu structure. So I just drag and drop it up near the top. What I'm going to do is take Media Server and I'm going to take it down near the bottom of that list because I don't want to clog up my main screen with services that I'm not going to be using. So I can either reposition them or I can disable them. Okay, so let's go back up to administration and go down to integration. These are the integration partners that Russound has: Amazon Alexa, Control4, URC, RTI. They would presume that you would have those devices already present in the person's home, and it's a question of just clicking the enabled button, and what will happen is that in the case of Amazon, it will take you to the Amazon Alexa website, and you can set the unit up to respond to Alexa voice commands. Go back up to administration and to Chromecast. Chromecast apps are available and they're all visible there. Some are free, some are not available in Canada, and some of them will take you directly to the site, and you would then set up the streaming service directly through their app. So the term Chromecast is important. So we can respond to AirPlay, so streaming from a mobile device via AirPlay, or we can stream via Chromecast. The difference is that when you're using Chromecast, you're actually casting the service from your mobile device to the Russound MBX-PRE. When we're using Apple AirPlay, we're streaming directly from that mobile device, and the streaming service actually continues from the mobile device. So if you're using a phone and the phone rings with a call, then your service will be interrupted. It will restore once the phone call is finished. So Chromecast is a better way of getting information from your mobile device directly into the MBX-PRE.